snow fell in heavy, suffocating sheets, blanketing the city in an eerie, suffocating silence. The wind howled like a beast, rattling the windows and whipping at the edges of her coat, but she barely noticed. Her arms were wrapped around her little boy, his small body trembling against hers, and all she could feel was a pain sharper than the winter air, an ache that had nothing to do with frostbite. "Mom, why?" His tiny voice broke through the storm, innocent and fragile, and it cut her heart in two. She tried to swallow back her own sobs, but the tears came anyway, freezing on her cheeks. She remembered the moment clearly. It had started like any other evening, the mundane chatter of a couple settling into routine. Then a cold glance, a sharp word, and suddenly she was being shoved out the door, her hands clutching the little bag she had packed in a frantic few minutes. His voice, once familiar and warm, now sounded alien and cruel. "I'm done with this. You and him, out now. I found someone better. Someone better." The words echoed in her mind as she stepped into the blizzard, her heels sinking into the snow, the world around her dissolving into white. He didn't care that she had nowhere to go, no friends who could open their doors in the middle of a storm. He didn't care that she had spent years building a life, that she had given everything, her love, her trust, her heart. All gone in a single heartbeat. Her child whimpered, clinging tighter, and she tightened her grip around him. She wrapped her coat around his small frame, trying to shield him from the cold, though the wind cut through like knives. Every step was agony, every breath a struggle against the icy gusts, and yet, in that frozen, desolate night, she felt a flicker of something she hadn't felt in hours, resolve. She would survive this, she had to, for him, for herself. Every street was deserted, the usual city lights dimmed under the heavy clouds. The blizzard was merciless, erasing footprints as soon as they appeared, leaving no trail, no trace. It mirrored the emptiness she felt inside, the abrupt erasure of a life she had believed in. Her hands ached, her lungs burned, but still, she trudged forward, whispering gentle reassurances to her son. "Mommy's right here, we'll be okay, I promise." But she didn't believe it, not yet. How could she, when the person she loved most had become her greatest tormentor? She wondered if he even thought of them, or if the warmth of a new lover already made the memory of their life together irrelevant. As the snow thickened, obscuring the city, she ducked into an alley, huddling against a brick wall for some shield from the storm. Her son's tiny fingers clung to hers, searching for comfort, and she pressed her forehead to his, trying to absorb his fear into her own heart. "I'll keep you safe," she whispered, though her voice trembled. "I swear we'll get through this." And as the wind howled outside, a quiet, burning fire began to ignite inside her. Not the fire of desperation, but the smoldering embers of a plan, a promise to herself. They may have thrown her into the cold, cast her aside, humiliated her in the snow, but she would rise. Somehow, someday, for now, she would survive the night. The first rays of sunlight barely cut through the remnants of the blizzard, casting a pale, gray light across the city. She sat in a tiny, dimly lit motel room, her child curled beside her under a thin blanket. His soft breathing, the only sound that reassured her she wasn't completely alone. The world outside still felt cold, harsh, and unforgiving, but inside, a fire was beginning to stir. For years, she had lived a double life. To the world, she was a struggling single mother, surviving paycheck to paycheck, navigating the treacherous currents of love, family, and society. But behind the curtain, she held a secret so powerful it could crush anyone who dared cross her. She was $2, 3 billion heiress, the sole inheritor of an empire built by ruthless ambition and vision. Yet she had chosen anonymity, wanting to live a life that felt real, untainted by entitlement, until tonight, That anonymity had protected her from the cruelties of the world. Now, however, her heart pounded not with fear, but with a slow, dangerous determination. She stared at her laptop, opened to a hidden financial account, numbers stretching into the billions, untouchable yet entirely hers. Every thought of the man who had thrown her into the blizzard, his smug smile, his arrogant words, his betrayal ignited a spark that could no longer be contained. She had been humiliated, discarded like refuse, and yet the world did not know her true power. That would change. She watched his social media profiles with a calculated detachment. Photos of him with his mistress, the ease with which he flaunted their happiness, their triumphs, his disregard for the life he had destroyed. They fueled a meticulous plan. Every post, every careless action was an opportunity. He believed he had won, that the story of his betrayal had concluded with her shivering in the snow. But she had all the leverage now. She could watch him, manipulate events, and strike when he least expected it. Her son stirred, blinking sleep from his eyes. She smiled gently, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead. "We'll be okay," she whispered again, the words heavier now with conviction. "We're stronger than they'll ever know, and one day they'll regret hurting us." The fire inside her grew, transforming grief into strategy. She began drafting a list, not of revenge out of malice, but of justice. He had underestimated her, dismissed her, treated her as insignificant. That mistake would be his undoing. She would not destroy him recklessly. She would dismantle the life he had built on lies and arrogance, piece by piece, while keeping her hands clean and her identity hidden until the perfect moment. She leaned back in the worn chair, watching her son play with a small toy car. He was innocent, unaware of the storm raging both outside and inside her. She had to protect him, not just from the cold, but from the emotional scars left by betrayal, and in doing so, she realized something powerful. The world had no idea who they were dealing with. The blizzard had stripped her of comfort, dignity, and stability, but it had also awakened a strength she had long buried. She could feel it now, coursing through her like electricity. She was not broken. She was patient. She was powerful. And she was ready. One day soon, he would wake up to a reality he could never escape, and when that day came, the man who had kicked them out into the freezing night would finally understand exactly who he had wronged. For now, she would wait. She would watch, and she would plan. The city had changed since that night. The snow had long melted, leaving behind streets that seemed just as familiar yet somehow colder. But she had changed too, no longer the frightened woman thrown into the blizzard, no longer the one who waited for mercy or pity. Now she moved with purpose, each step calculated, each decision deliberate. Her son thrived in their new, hidden life, unaware of the storm brewing just beneath the surface. She had secured a modest but comfortable apartment, carefully chosen so it remained invisible to anyone who might try to track them. And while they lived in relative anonymity, she began weaving the threads of her plan, using her hidden fortune as both sword and shield. It began subtly. A poorly chosen business deal of his fell apart mysteriously. Funds vanished from accounts that were supposed to be secure. Contacts she had cultivated for years quietly withdrew support. They were not many, but they were enough. Whispers of WILLAMERCER stood in front of the M. The ISMANAGEMENT0 started to circulate. He scratched his head, puzzled, unaware that the woman he had cast aside was orchestrating every collapse from behind the veil. She observed him from a distance, masking her satisfaction with the same calm elegance she had learned to wear like armor. Every failure he faced, every moment of confusion or panic, felt like a quiet triumph, but not a cruel one. This was justice, not malice. She wasn't seeking to destroy him completely. She was teaching him a lesson about arrogance, about betrayal, about underestimating someone he once believed powerless. At night, when the city lights flickered against her apartment window, she allowed herself a small, private smile. She thought of the blizzard, of the humiliation, of the cold biting into her skin as she had held her son close. Those memories fueled her precision. Every phone call she made, every legal maneuver she orchestrated, was a measured strike. She had learned to be invisible when it mattered, yet omnipresent where it counted. Her ex continued to flaunt his life online, unaware of the collapse unfolding behind the scenes. She watched him post photos with his mistress, laughing in cafes, dining in luxury, blissfully ignorant that the ground beneath him was crumbling. Each post was an opportunity, a puzzle piece in her carefully constructed design. She did not rush. She never rushed. Patience was part of her power. One evening, she attended a high-profile charity event, blending seamlessly among the city's elite. No one suspected her true identity. She smiled, exchanged pleasantries, and quietly assessed potential allies, people whose influence could accelerate the downfall she envisioned. Every handshake, every polite nod, was a step toward the reckoning she knew he deserved. Yet, amidst the strategy and manipulation, she never lost sight of her son. He was the reason she moved forward, the anchor that grounded her in compassion and love. Revenge could never overshadow that. Every plan, every calculated strike, was designed not to hurt for the sake of hurt, but to reclaim dignity stolen from them in the blizzard that night. By the time the city began to take notice of the subtle upheavals in his life, she had already positioned herself far beyond his reach, and though she remained unseen, she felt a quiet, intoxicating satisfaction. The woman he had discarded was no longer powerless. She was rising, patient, poised, and unstoppable. Soon, very soon, the world would see the truth. And when that moment arrived, she would step forward, not as the victim of betrayal, but as the architect of a justice so sweet it would leave them both stunned. The gala hall glittered with crystal chandeliers. The city's elite gathered in their finest attire, unaware that tonight history would witness a quiet but powerful reckoning. She walked through the crowd with effortless grace, her gown shimmering under the soft lights, each step a reminder of the journey from despair to dominance. She wasn't just attending the event, she was reclaiming the life that had been stolen from her. Her ex was there too, oblivious to the storm approaching. He laughed easily with his mistress, the arrogance of his triumph still intact, but the cracks had already begun to show. His investments had faltered, his public image subtly eroding. Tonight, she intended to ensure he understood that the woman he had cast aside was no longer powerless, and that justice could be delivered with elegance, not cruelty. From the stage, she made her way to the podium, the room quieting in anticipation of the evening's keynote. When she spoke, her voice carried confidence and authority, warm yet commanding. "Good evening, everyone. Tonight, I'm honored to announce a new initiative, one that will transform lives, communities, and opportunities for those who truly deserve it." Eyes turned curious, some recognizing her face vaguely, others wondering at the voice so assured. She paused, letting the silence stretch just enough to heighten the moment. Then, with a subtle flourish, she revealed the truth. Her name, her fortune, and the empire she commanded. The room gasped collectively, whispers filling the air as her identity, the one she had hidden for years, was laid bare. And then she spoke his name, not with malice, not with anger, but with the calm precision of someone who had endured and learned. To those who have underestimated others, to those who have taken love and loyalty for granted, let this be a reminder that actions have consequences. Her ex froze, his smile faltering as recognition and horror dawned simultaneously. The mistress, too, realized she had been an accessory in a game far bigger than herself. The room watched, captivated, as the woman they thought had been powerless stepped forward, radiant and untouchable. It wasn't just a reveal, It was the culmination of everything she had endured. The blizzard, the humiliation, the nights of fear and uncertainty. All of it had led to this moment of triumph. She felt a surge of satisfaction, not cruel, but sweetly righteous, knowing that he had finally understood the gravity of his betrayal. Yet amidst the triumph, there was no bitterness left in her heart. She had protected her son, reclaimed her dignity, and orchestrated a reckoning without compromising her integrity. She smiled, stepping down from the podium, feeling the weight of the past lift with every confident stride. Her ex and his mistress melted into the crowd, diminished in ways words could not fully capture. He had lost not just her love, but the respect and recognition of everyone present. And she had risen from the snow and cold to stand as a figure of power, resilience, and grace. Later, as she held her son close outside the gala, the cold night now gentle, she whispered, "We did it. We survived and we thrived." His small arms wrapped around her, a quiet promise that no matter what the world threw at them, they would always rise together. The storm of betrayal had passed, leaving in its wake a future forged by strength, intelligence, and unshakable resolve. And as the city sparkled beneath the winter stars, she knew one undeniable truth: justice, when tempered with patience and dignity, was the sweetest revenge of all.